slide will
Sister over there, pink shirt.
Have to live your whole life. Is that 6:30?
Mine says 6.
Is that 6? Okay. Good evening. Open the regular session Thursday, August 16th, 2012. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we'll remain standing, Mr. Bob Turner from the Baha'i Faith of Fountain Hills. Are you here, Bob?
O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy divine providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight and joining us. Bev, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Here.
Councilmember Yates,
Present.
Councilmember Dickey,
Here.
Councilmember Elke,
Here.
Councilmember Hanson, Vice Mayor Leger,
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
We have a special scheduled appearance, Carol Grew, related to the activities of the Fountain Hills Coalition. Carol, come on up.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. And I am going to just give you a very brief overview of the Fountain Hills Coalition. And I'm going to begin with sort of like our mission and what we do, and finish up with some of the projects that we're involved with. We began about 3 years ago, actually this month, 3 years ago, and it all started one day when Mark Mayer and another parent and I were in a town hall room, and we decided that the best thing to do in going forward wasn't just to throw some money here and there at different projects, but we really should come up with a strategy, and we should move forward in prevention. And from that, we started developing a mission and moved forward with the logic model and started activities. So basically, our mission of the Fountain Hills Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition is just that. It's youth substance abuse in the immediate future and over time among adults as well. So what we do is we work with many sectors across the city and many sectors across the state and even nationwide to work on our strategies. I thought it'd be really important to put some important-looking people from Washington, D.C. in a slide, so I did that. And basically, I wanted to thank the town council for a lot of the feedback that I've been given over the years, because we are a part of CADCA, which is Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, and that's sponsored through the White House. And we're funded through Drug-Free Communities, which is a federal grant. And we did receive a year of training through CADCA, and that training was very intense, and it was 3 weeks over a years-long period. And there is where we developed basically a logic model and more or less all of the strategies that we use moving forward. The public health model is the model that we use, and it is really specifically geared towards working on the entire environment, not just projects. So I'm going to give you a very brief and fast overview, and that's really hard for somebody from Mississippi to do very quickly, but I'll do my best. We work sometimes in the schools. We do sort of awareness, we do prevention, so we have several different activities. One of them is at the middle school. It's Red Ribbon Day. We do things in the high school. We brought in a DUI simulator. We have speakers. And I have to say, one of the most exciting days last year for me was we had this great, amazing speaker come into the high school, a really young, vivacious man. And he came in, and afterwards my daughters were friended by him on Facebook, and so that was a big day. We do a lot of awareness of some of the programs that we've started. You see some of the various pictures here. There's Captain Rodriguez in one of the pictures. We collaborate a lot across the community to do a lot of the different programs. So we show up at various fairs and boutiques and things. It's really a lot of awareness raising. One of the great collaboration projects that we've worked on is a completely anonymous tip line, and this is a 24/7 tip line for anyone who needs to report something and they just don't want anybody to know it, and it's been very successful, and we really thank not only our schools, but also Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, because they've been an amazing partner with this program. So we work to market this program. So you've probably seen text-to-tip signs on buses and garbage cans, and Parks and Rec has been amazing through community services getting that word out. We do a lot of visits in Washington, D.C. We work with our representatives in our senators' offices to make sure that we're doing as much as we can from a policy perspective on prevention. And we've started an Above That Club, which is a club at the middle school, and it's a place that kids can go once a week after school, and they can work on prevention skills, and they play a little volleyball and do a few other things as well. Early action kits are one of the things that we started in the town. This is really something that helps with any parent that finds out that they may have a problem in their home with drugs. And since there aren't a lot of services necessarily right here in Fountain Hills, this is sort of a first step. It's a free drug screen in this kit, and you can pick it up at 10 different locations in Fountain Hills. And it also has steps that parents can take in order to take action inside their home. We sponsored and co-sponsored, actually, with the town chapters, which was a primer on substance abuse prevention, and that was through the community theater. And probably one of the biggest things we've worked on to change social norms is the parent network group. It's called Safe Homes Network, and this is a place that parents basically sign that they're not going to serve alcohol to their minors in their homes. And it's a sort of a handshake with other parents that if your child's coming to my house, you can just be assured that that's not going to happen, but you can also give me a call and you can assure yourself that we're home. Just kind of a promotion item that we did to help with Safe Homes Network was start a gingerbread house competition, and this is really a fun thing that you should go by and see in late November and early December in Town Hall, because I got to tell you that or actually it was in the community center, because there were some really amazing gingerbread house competitions, and again, that's really just to promote Safe Homes Network. Some of the projects that are going on this year are supporting some of the things that we've done and continuing to create other things. Everything that we do is data-driven, so we don't just say, we think this is a good idea. We make sure that it's matching what our data is showing us from youth surveys, from police reports, and various other points of data that we get from Fountain Hills and our local conditions. And an exciting project that's coming up this year is called Safe Homes Network app. And it's actually an app that's free that you can download. We have one for the Droid, one for the any smartphone that you have, a BlackBerry or an iPhone, and it's a free app, and it's actually a Safe Homes Network of Fountain Hills app where you can go on and you can call if you're a concerned parent and call and confirm to make sure that another parent's going to be home. So those are some of the projects that we're doing. Thank you again for all the support of the Fountain Hills Town Council, and the collaboration has been just so incredibly amazing in this town. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, thanks, Carol. I think you've done an outstanding job. I know just the statistics that come in from the text-to-tip are really amazing, and I look forward to attending the meetings this year, representing the town. I also wanted to thank you for keeping me up to date and sending me all this additional information. It's certainly very helpful to me to keep up on what's going on, so I thank you for that. And I urge everybody to join the Safe Home Network. You don't have to have kids. I only have a 5-year-old grandson, and I've signed up, so it's for anybody to sign up, and it also shows your support. Does anyone have any questions for Carol? Yes, Councilman Elke.
Yeah, Carol, just keep up the good work. I really appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into this and the rest of the coalition. I know you have Dwight and Laura Johnson that are here as well, so thank you very much for all your contributions. Captain Rodriguez. Sorry, I didn't mean to, yeah, sorry about that. He's back there doing this to me. He's like, no. If you get in trouble, I'll buy you lunch. But thank you very much, Carol. I really appreciate all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments or questions for Carol? No? Okay, thank you, Carol.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we'll go on to our call to the public, and I believe we have some speaker cards.
Yes, Mayor, we have 5 speaker cards. Dwight Johnson, followed by Mark Steinmetz.
Mayor and Town Council, I'm here to support Carol and the coalition, but I just found out this afternoon that the Joe Goyena family with MCO Realty are moving to Maryland and permanently, and they're leaving in 1 week. And I just wanted to mention that the significance that family's had for 32 years in our community, and they've serviced, as you know, thousands of residents with their real estate needs. They've served as ambassadors on the Chamber of Commerce. They were Business Persons of the Year at one time, way back. And then, really near and dear to me, is the Easter egg hunt, in which they financially sponsor it themselves. And we have thousands of young children come out every year, and they've done this for 10 years. So I just wanted to say that I just wanted to wish them the best as a transition, a big transition to a new chapter of their life. And I just wanted to say, Joe Jr., the son, their daughter, Kimberly, the wife is Carol, and then Joe Gull. They truly were difference makers for 32 years in the town of Fountain Hills, and we thank them for that. Thanks.
Thanks, Dwight.
Mark Steinmetz.
Welcome, Mr. Steinmetz.
Thank you, Mayor. I just simply wanted to make a brief introduction. I plan to open a business here in the Fountain Hills area. My name is Mark Steinmetz, and I'm the Arizona Department of Health Services medical marijuana licensee for the community. We hope to be open by the year's end, and I just want to mention that I certainly agree with the mission that Carol just articulated a moment ago, and certainly would be very supportive of CADCA and her mission here in the community, and willing to support that cause. As you probably know, Town Council and Mayor, that the medical marijuana program is an adult program for patient card holders only and exclusively, so that they do not have to receive medicine for illnesses that they choose a natural substance to address it with from a black market, a marketplace, and by having a legitimate, a medical outlet for folks who can benefit from medical marijuana. It does take away from the black market that does pervade our schools and our communities in a negative way. I fully intend to follow the rules set forth by the Arizona Department of Health Services and the laws of the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act and Proposition 203. We intend to serve exclusively the medical needs of those patient card holders who have cards that were approved and issued through their doctors, so that they have an alternative. So folks that are suffering with cancer, chemotherapy, there's a wide variety of illnesses that are addressed through medical marijuana, some most effectively than any pharmaceutical that is offered by any drug company in America at this moment. For more information on that, I would recommend anybody go to azmedtesting.com, azmedtesting.com, that all medical marijuana that we will sell to patients will be tested for potency, for THCs, CDBs, and CBNs, the active ingredients. There are various strains that address various illnesses, and we measure those particular medicines within each strain. Some have no psychoactive effects. They have very little or no THC whatsoever, but are rich in CBNs that affect certain diseases in beneficial ways. So we that particular testing website just gives you a lot of data and information about what the medicine does and what it doesn't do. And I think clears up some of the ignorance that surrounds and the stigmatism that surrounds this product that we're very aware of. So thank you very much for your time to speak. Perhaps there'll be a time in the future where I can make a more in-depth presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steinmetz.
Kendrick Spiegel.
Kendrick is not present at this moment. I know he's on his way. He's running back.
Linda Bardot, followed by Peter Bardot.
Hi, Linda.
Council, how is everyone tonight? I just briefly wanted to, I wasn't able to stay for the entire last meeting. I had my granddaughter with me, but I watched it online. And I just have a concern about the water bill that was discussed. Believe me when I tell you, I am the first person to jump up and down and say this law is not a good law. I would never have agreed with this law. It shouldn't have applied to our town, but unfortunately, a law was passed that said we owe the money. So believing fully that we are a nation of laws and it is we are required to follow the law, whether we like it or not, I think that we should just pay this bill and get it over with. I agreed with Councilmember Yates and Mayor Kavanaugh. I don't want to have us, be a standout, just like Bisbee and South Tucson, of the only 3 cities in the league that decided not to pay. It's kind of like we're stiffing the rest of the league by not paying. There was discussion of maybe the league could do something else to try to help us, but it seems as though with the help of Representative Kavanaugh, this law was able to be overturned. And I don't know, if I was on the league, if I was another city, I don't know if I'd be all, ready to jump in and help a town that decided not to pay when every other town has. So while I understand you were upset about the languaging, that's part of your right to be upset, but I think it's the law and I think we should pay for it. One more thing I wanted to say, I don't know if I'll have time to stay until item 6 comes up, but I understand we have a contract for the Christmas lights, which is great. It's my granddaughter's favorite thing, is to get in the car and ride and look at the lights. I'm hopeful, though, because we looked at them a lot last year, that if it's the same contractee who did the lights last year, that we really hold them to that clause in the contract that says they're required to maintain them and make sure that they're in good working order, because they really weren't last year. Eliza would point out, oh, Santa's thing isn't spinning, his motorcycle wheels didn't work a lot, so just a thought on that. So in case I'm not here, you at least have that. But can we please just pay it? And if it was a concern, I think Councilmember Brown was worried about the cost of the water bill. I have clearly demonstrated that we can save about $13,000 on that citizen survey that we budgeted for 30. And I don't know the budgeting ramifications, but I know we're down a town employee now. Lori Gary is no longer here. Something's happening to her salary for the next month or last month, so maybe we can pull those together. I don't want to see it come out of wash maintenance. They're working on the wash near my house finally, and it's in dire need of that. So I think we can cobble together the $27,000, to get that paid. So thank you for indulging me. I think I went over, so thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Peter Bardot, then Bob Turner.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Madam Mayor, distinguished council members. She's a tough act to follow at so many levels. So for those of you who were here during the conversation about funding the theater and all of that, I'd be glad to know I still have not shaved my legs to come here tonight. So there are a couple things I wanted to say. One of them is about our Jumpstart Business Incubator here in town. So after the presentation that they did here at the town council, I made an appointment and I went over there. And I have to tell you that these folks are really amazing. The level, depth, and breadth of their experience in the industry, and number of industries, is really impressive. I was so blown away that I'm going to be the newest client come Wednesday when my son and I sign up to start a new business here in Fountain Hills. So I want to thank you for creating that relationship. I want to thank you for inviting them here to do that presentation. I would never have known about them, and just couldn't be happier about the whole thing. So, as I said, my wife's a tough act to follow. I did want to throw my 2 cents into the mix on the ADWR bill for $28,017.21. And I listened online to the whole conversation from the last meeting, and I really got what a lot of you folks were saying about the tone of the letter was less than desirable, all the things that we could do with that money. I think about that every time I have to pay taxes too, But, I think my wife said it fairly eloquently, and I don't want to reiterate everything that she said, other than that I agree with it. It's a bill. We owe the money. And I think we've, made our best efforts to make our argument. They repealed the law. So going forward, we won't have this obligation, but we have this obligation today. So I implore you to just pay this bill, get it off our backs, and let's move on. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter.
Bob Turner?
Mayor and distinguished council members, I noticed something recently in the trash pickup. You have the big container, the beige container, then you have the smaller blue container. And the lids on the top where they pivot down are going to be worn out very soon. I thought it was just my trash can, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. Then I went around the neighborhood and I looked at every single trash can, and it's all doing the same thing. I think when they pick it up and they dump it, they hit it too hard. I called them and I explained the situation to them, and I told them that we're all supposed to try to be eco-friendly these days. You're going to be replacing a lot of wasted plastic, and it will eventually, the cost will trickle down to the community. And they said, no, we just replace the trash can. I said, but the issue is the lids. And you can prevent this, I think, by a calibration of when you dump it. If not, maybe they need to, instead of having the smaller waste can, make it the larger waste can. So if any one of you get a chance to look at your recycle can, you'll see it's wearing out. And it will end up costing, most likely, it'll trickle down to the community members. When I called them, they didn't seem to care too much. And then I said, well, I need to speak to somebody that is in charge. So they gave me a name of a lady, and said, you can leave a message for her, and we will also leave a message for her to call you back. I never got a call back. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you. Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
No? Okay. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Item number 1, consideration of approving the Town Council meeting minutes from August 2nd, 2012. Item number 2, consideration of a professional services agreement with Olson Associates for the Four Peaks Park Master Plan update in the amount of $44,350. Item number 3 is consideration of approving an allocation of $3,500 from the Downtown Development Fund for the Ballet Under the Stars event. Item number 4 is consideration of approving a professional service agreement between the town and the Arizona Business Advisors, LLC, in the amount of $4,500 to cover the town's portion of fiscal year 2012-13 expenses for a business incubator program. Item number 5 is consideration of Resolution 2012-26, approving the Second Amendment to the IGA with the Superior Court of Arizona for jury management services. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Mayor, so moved.
And a second?
Second.
Were there any speaker cards on this?
No, Mayor.
No. Any council discussion on the consent agenda? Then I will request a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dickey? Aye. Councilmember Elke? Aye. Vice Mayor Leger? Aye. Councilmember Hanson? Aye. Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
We will now move into the regular agenda items portion of the meeting. Item number 6 is consideration of awarding a contract between the town and Holiday Lighting Company in the amount of $27,995.20 for downtown holiday lighting. Ken?
Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, Development Service Director has a report.
Thank you.
Mayor and council members, thank you. On July 12th, the town issued a request for proposals for holiday lighting, and on July 23rd, we received 3 proposals. We ranked those proposals, and the ranking was based on qualifications, design, and pricing, and the selection committee unanimously selected Holiday Lighting Company. We did modify their scope a little bit. We added some more, like 10 or 11 more palm trees, and then some lights in some of the fountains, so the pools will be lit. This year, their design included lighting the buildings on the Civic Center complex. We've gotten away from that the last few years. This is a 1-year contract with 4 renewal options, and the renewals will be based on performance and obviously whatever the budget is for holiday lighting. The lights in the median trees are scheduled to go up at the end of September before we do the overseeding. The ground displays will go in after the art fair. The company will be on hand for the lighting ceremony December 1st, and then they will be removed the first part of January. And if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Yeah, is this the same company that did our lighting last year?
No, this is a different company. I know you had some comments about working, not working. Those ground displays are very old, and they are hard to keep up with maintenance. And then we also have the issue with the electrical system out there. The way the GFIs are set up, any moisture will trip them. So,
And since they'll also be taking care of the displays that belong to us, we still have those in storage?
correct. The old lighting company has them. We'll be delivering them to us, and then the new lighting company will be picking them up.
And are they also responsible for those, let's say Santa goes out, even though it belongs to us, would they come in and fix it?
Correct, but they have a 24-hour response period.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. If we could, what was the spread on the three numbers?
The original numbers, two of them were at about $29,000, and they did not include the buildings. And the low bid was roughly $25,000, including the buildings, but we also added in more palm trees and some of the pool lightings, which brought it up to around $28,000.
Thank you. Will we need to do any more maintenance or repair on the electrical system to support the new lighting system?
The current system, I mean, it goes out with any moisture. Each box is covered. Any moisture that gets in there will trip the GFIs, so we just have to go through and reset them when they go out.
Okay, and then how will this compare to last year? Will it be more grand?
The design on the avenue is similar, but we are adding the buildings and then some lights in the pools.
Thank you, Paul.
Any other questions from council? Councilman Yates?
Well, actually, Councilperson Hanson.
I just wondered if we had a mechanism in place, because I know it's hard to monitor, and even if the company came out every day, you know, they're not here necessarily at night. So while citizens are going around, could we have like an extra extension set up that they could call in and report and just say, you know, one display is out or something, to kind of get some help on monitoring the lights?
Mayor, Councilmember Hanson, believe me, they call. What we do is, we used to do timers, but what would happen is one would go out because a GFI would trip, then all your timers are off and you can't get them set right. So we just leave them on 24/7 now. So we don't have the issue with the timers. Our town staff, some that live in town, will look at it. You know, we're here in the morning. The streets department will check it before they leave for the day, you know, around 6 p.m. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, you know, and Sundays, the guys that live in town will do some drive-bys, and the company will also come out they're supposed to come out once a day on, I think, Saturday and Sunday.
And I believe they have 24 hours to come out and repair something?
Correct.
If you call them?
Correct.
Any other council? Oh, I'm sorry.
On an aside, how much more was it to add the buildings, lighting the buildings?
The buildings, it's in here. $5,180 of their bid is for the buildings.
Thank you.
Councilman Elke?
Thank you. And Paul, would this be an opportunity, you're familiar with Go Request, the app?
Yeah, we could use that.
Our town clerk introduced me to that. Would that be something that our residents could use to notify the town of any issues? And could you explain what that is?
There is a Go Request app where with a smartphone you can take a picture, send in a issue if it's, you know, a pothole or a down sign or something with the lights. I believe it's going to go to our IT first, and then it's going to get disseminated to the proper person, so I don't know how long that would take.
Okay. And on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, if there was an issue with the lighting, what should our residents do with Town Hall being closed? I mean, as far as notifying the town, email?
Yeah.
What's the quickest?
Email would be the quickest, obviously.
Hey,
To myself would be the quickest.
Okay.
or to Ken Kurth, our street superintendent.
All right. And I want to commend staff, too. Just one more thing. You came $2,000 under budget. Every little bit counts, and I want to encourage you to keep it up.
Yeah, we had about a $29,000 budget for this. The actual budget in the approved budget is a little bit over $30,000. We do reserve some money for decorating inside of Town Hall and the Civic Center, or the Community Center.
Any other council people
Mayor.
would like to speak on
Yes,
this?
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Leger?
Thank you, Mayor. Paul, I think last year we did have someone on call, and I believe it was Ken. Does that make sense to perhaps publish a number out on the website?
We could do that. I don't really like them having call the after-hour pager. It's really for emergencies. We always I'll get an email almost instantly if somebody sends it to me, or Ken will also.
All right. Just a second question. It seems this is the third year in the row we've experienced, the electrical deficiencies. And we keep talking about this. We had a citizen this evening mention the issue with the lights going out. I think the mayor made that comment. And it really is an infrastructure issue, I believe. What's the long-term solution?
It's really the way the electrical's set up. There's individual boxes. If you look out there, they have covers. Rain or any moisture trips those GFIs. I know we are looking at some plans for the avenue that we'll be discussing later, and we're looking at a more centralized electrical system in one spot, so it would be out of the way from getting, hit by sprinklers or other things.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have one speaker card that just came in.
Linda Bordeaux?
I'm good, thank you, Madam. I think I said it all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
And then any other council discussion? I don't want to miss anyone. All right, then. I would like to request a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? And then we'll do an all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
All right. We will go on to item number 7. This is consideration with possible direction to staff relating to the operation of the fountain in Fountain Park. Ken?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Community Services Director has a report for you.
Mark?
Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, you may recall that back in June, I proposed a number of possible scenarios under which the fountain could be operated. The intent at that time was to get a consensus from the council on what the option might be. We then also in turn suggested that whatever we came up with as far as an estimate, that we would take that to the SRP, get information from them to either refute or establish what that new fee would be associated with what their rate is. What I discovered and what I included in my memo is there are some significant things that are associated with our rate that I wanted to bring to your attention. I also included in my memo to you. The establishment of rates and figuring out the cost of running that fountain is far more complicated than I thought. For instance, there are a number of variables associated with, obviously, 3 pumps and how long they are run is an option. They also explained to me that they have up to 5 different rates in any one day. It can change up to 5 times in a day. They also, depending on the day of the week, weekends are off-peak, weekdays are on-peak, so it varies that way as well. It also varies month to month. So when I took the information that they provided to me, and SRP, I want to thank them, they were most helpful. But I literally had to take the information home and spend a couple hours on a Sunday afternoon and fill up 3 pages worth of mathematical calculations to come up with those numbers. It was far more complicated than I thought. I even had the staff go back over my numbers to make sure I had done everything right. And I'd made a few errors here and there, but they were relatively minor. But I wanted to make sure that the methodology that I used based on their numbers was correct. And as you can see, the bad news is the number is substantially higher than what we thought it would be, as well as what we actually have budgeted. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions you might have. The amount that you saw there was obviously significantly in excess of what we have budgeted for this year. You may recall that when I presented this in June, we were on the last fiscal year. That's why the number that we actually have budgeted went from 138.5 to the new number that you see, a little over 140,000. So I also wanted to mention that one option, of course, is to table this. As you know, we're probably in discussions and will continue for the time being with the sanitary district on the operation of the fountain. So there's an option there, obviously, that's included in there for them to operate the fountain. And so I'm really here to get some direction again from the council if you want to look at another option or table the item.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And since this all happened, I'm going to go to Councilman Yates. He has been in contact with our SRP representative, Jason Barron, so he does have some updated information for us.
Well, actually, it goes along the lines of, first off, thank you, Mark, for doing all that work, and I know that's pretty tedious. You probably had to get an abacus out and everything to do all that.
I use my calculator.
This is near and dear to me because not only is it just our namesake, but from an economic development standpoint, when you go to the Grand Canyon, somebody's not holding up a blanket and then, take it down every 45 minutes to say ta-da. So my personal feeling is we need the fountain going all the time as much as possible and keep that grandiose attraction. Plus, we are working with staff and ADOT right now to get our world-famous fountain next right back on the beeline, and I would hate for somebody to drive by, the tens of thousands of people that drive by, to get off the exit at 20 after, and they come to see the great fountain, and there's nothing there. Basically, what Jason reiterated, as you pointed out, Mark, is that if we give them a budget, they will work with us to figure out what's the best thing. The peak times that you alluded to, where the price is almost quadrupled, is that 2 to 7 o'clock. And I'm sure if we sit down with our Visitors Bureau people, they might be able to come up with, a kind of a schedule that would be advantageous to all of us and to all the visitors, even if it's operating back to that 15 minutes, on the hour, once an hour from 2 to 7. But what I was encouraged by is the fact that, just as you reiterated, SRP will work with us. If we give them a budget and we say we want to maximize this, they'll work with us. I would like to proceed on this. Obviously, we're not going to say, okay, do it, full go and pass a budget that or a program that's above budget. But I would say let's proceed on this, and I'll even volunteer my time and services to help you with the calculations. I got a minor in finance, but I could at least help out. But I do think this is important, and I do think this is achievable, and I think SRP is on board with it.
Yeah, I also spoke to Jason Barron today, and he seems to think that we can work this out, looking at the schedules, and after speaking with Councilman Yates and discussing all of the possibilities, he's very optimistic that we can probably stay within budget. But I would also like to mention that I did recently have a meeting with a men's discussion group, and I see some of them are here today, and they were very interested in having that fountain run more, especially the businesses that are down at the plaza. And they had suggested to me that why don't we just try it for 1 month, just 1 month, and let's see what kind of a reaction we get from the residents and from the businesses to see our fountain running on 1 pump all the time and then a few times up at the full 3 pumps. And I think we should at least consider that, because we can study a lot of it on paper, and of course the finances are important, and I'm encouraged by Councilman Yates' discussion with SRP. But to actually witness it and get reactions from people, I think the only way we're going to get that is if we actually do it and try it. Would anyone, Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I concur that we probably should table this and go with SRP, go to SRP and work with SRP. And Mark, I appreciate and know what it's like to sit all day Saturday and Sunday and work numbers, so I appreciate it and thank you. And I, too, would volunteer my time and energy to go with Cecil and whomever from the staff to work with SRP to see if we can make this happen. But there are three goals that we need to keep in mind before we make any changes to the running time of the fountain. we will need to get all the citizens' input we can. I've heard pros and cons from both sides pretty heavily, and I'm an advocate of it. I'm all for it. And then the second thing is, I will need more information, and I think we can get the information on the life expectancy of the pumps and the pump systems, not just the pumps, but the entire system, from the people that have been pulling them out and rebuilding them for us. And the last thing is, I think our goal should be that the expenditure line that's in this current budget should not be exceeded. And with those three things in mind, I would like to make a motion to table this for the evening and move it to the second meeting in September, and that will give us 30 days to come up with some firm, solid dollars and some options on run times.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
Mayor, we have two, Bob Dosay and Jean Schletka.
Bob?
Well, good evening. About half of you know me and about half of you don't. I have the Bob Dosay, and I own the CardSmart store, which is right by the fountain. So I look at the fountain every day, and I hear all the complaints about the people that came from Glendale, and the fountain didn't go off, and it was noon, and go and wants their money back at Grappables because they were waiting to watch the fountain and it didn't run. It's a huge, it's the most important thing we can do for business in this town, and I've been in business in Arizona since 1978. If you think back when we had the little white ice cream store back there, and that fountain was going 12 hours a day or more, they were all successful. I was a sales rep at that time, and I had 3 customers in that complex. And there were buses coming in on that dirt road, and there were people walking around the park. And this is just common sense stuff as far as I'm concerned. And I know I'm self-serving because I do have a store right there. But if you increase my business, I'll pay you more taxes. And the other thing that is fairly apparent to me, the centers had trouble getting tenants. And one of the reasons is the fountain's not running. And that's a lovely center, and they're not really overpricing it, the real estate. So if you put it on, that landlord will have a lot better chance of leasing those spaces, and we'll start having a change in the business community here. And there's nothing that I feel more passionate about. I didn't think of this until maybe a year and a half ago, and I'm standing there going, why is that most important thing in our town not running? And even if we did have to pay some more, it would be well worthwhile to take some of the money from the travel and tourism thing. Ruth Gray, who works for me, and she's a most devoted employee I've ever had, she and her husband came down from Payson when they were hippies, and they saw the fountain coming down from Payson, and they turned around and they came in here and they bought the 8th house in Fountain Hills. That's how it happens. The people in the Indian community, the hotel over there, every one of those rooms almost can see the fountain when it's on. And there's thousands and thousands of consumers over there, and they don't have any reason to come over unless they see the fountain. I just implore you, please, please, please find a way to run that more often. And if it can't work out, do it 7 months of the year. Do it from September 15th to Easter. And cut back when we can't afford the electricity, and then during the summer, it's not as important, and the electricity costs more.
That's right.
So at any rate, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Mayor. Vice Mayor Leger.
Oh, there is?
Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any other speaker cards? I'm sorry. I have to go to one more speaker card. I'm sorry.
Jean Schletka.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm Gene Slechta. I live on Blackbird. Back in the June meeting, the council had a great deal of discussion on, I'll call it the wow factor, and I'm really pleased that this discussion's being had. I took one of my frequent walks through the park yesterday. My mind drifted back to 1995 when we moved here, and how much has changed in that park. I mean, I passed several beautiful pieces of art by the Plaza Fountain side. And these are beautiful pieces to anybody's eyes. Add to that Abe and Teddy and all the other beautiful pieces of art. Wow, that's really impressive. I walked past the Kiwanis Splash Park. My grandkids had recently had a wonderful time playing there. Granddaughter said, "Wow, Grandpa, this is great." I walked past the newly planted succulent garden. We're now showing pride in our natural vegetation instead of replacing it with Midwest flora. What a beautiful job our volunteers have done. Wow. And of course, I walked through a beautiful Veterans Memorial. I stopped for a moment, even though I have passed it 1,000 times. It's such a touching tribute of the bravery and sacrifices of so many. Wow. And to all the huge effort of the Greening Committee and the planting of hundreds of trees, and the town's investments, the wonderful path around the lake, the amphitheater, the ramadas, the playground, and the rejuvenation of the grass itself in the park. Wow. I've not forgotten the centerpiece of the park, the fountain. The wows I spoke of have been built by investments of millions of dollars over the years, and probably tens of thousands of man-hours by volunteers and town staff. We need a big wow regarding the fountain. Two things I would suggest. One, we need to produce an affordable use now that restores some of the original wow. Let's be honest, our fountain is no longer the tallest, nor the most unique. So running the fountain with one pump constantly and adding a few times a day for 3 pumps is no wow. Assuredly, many will come, see the fountain with one pump and say, "Is that it?" I've heard that. Even at 2 pumps. We should maximize the usage of 3 pumps, even if the visitors need to wait for up to an hour or whatever it takes. They will go home and tell others, "Wow." If they are wowed, and hopefully the others will come and discover our paradise. Secondly, briefly, we ought to ask town staff to begin to study options for the future to update the fountain. Remember how many upgrades and updates have been done in the park. When was the fountain last updated? Think Bellagio. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
May I have 3 seconds more?
Sure.
They were talking about Jogo before, and the center is going to throw a little going-away party for him on Tuesday, probably at 11:30, the 21st. We're going to get a banner or 2 and put it up and just show our appreciation to him and the family. So just so if you want to come, it's probably at 11:30.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Vice Mayor Leger?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have several questions, but in that we've tabled it, it's narrowed the discussion. So let me try to keep my discussion narrow with respect to the table. The table included a date, and what concerns me about that table date is that we have a rough draft on an IGA where it's very possible there may be a vendor taking over the fountain and making those decisions rather than the council making those decisions unless there was something in contract that indicated that we had certain input into it. So my concern is that that date may preclude us from taking a look at what this possible IGA is, and I think that that is a very important thing to be looking at. So I have a question for our town manager and attorney, if I may, with respect to the table date. Will we have this IGA discussed or possibly resolved prior to, what was the date again?
The second meeting in September.
Okay, September 15th.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'm trying to remember, Bev, today when we were talking on the draft agenda, is that the date that we had the IGA scheduled for, or was it?
We had a discussion at the work study on 9/11, and then maybe moving forward with it at the next meeting, which I thought was the 20th.
That's where we currently have it.
So my point is, there's consideration, I think, that we need to resolve the IGA before we make a final decision on the fountain itself. So if those dates are not working out with respect to the proposed schedule, I think we need to be flexible with our agenda item, and I'm just putting that out for consideration. Thank you.
Councilman Elke?
If I could, Mayor, address Councilmember Brown.
Of course.
Councilmember Brown, I believe you're the one that made the motion to table.
I did.
Could I ask you perhaps to withdraw your motion to table? I don't think it was intentional, but by moving to table, kind
Certainly.
of precluded us from asking some questions from staff.
Certainly.
I'm not opposed to it, I just would like the opportunity.
More than happy to.
Okay. Need to do anything formal, or is that good enough? Okay. All right, thank you. Mark, please, if I could. Just a question. Mark, if I recall correctly, at the last meeting when we were discussing the different ideas as far as the fountain, whether it's one pump all day, three, twice a day, and there was a number of different suggestions or thoughts about that. And if I am reading this correctly, you've presented us with the one option of one pump going all day and then 3 pumps 2 times a day. Am I reading that correctly, sir?
Correct.
Okay. What I would like to see when we have further discussion is some other options as far as whether it's 3 pumps, I guess go back to those minutes perhaps, because I know there was a discussion and some fellow council members brought up some other ideas as far as how many pumps at certain times a day. And I would ask also, and I appreciate Councilmember Yates and certainly the mayor calling SRP, but if we could get the additional information so that we all have the information together so that we can all analyze it together. And would SRP entertain the idea of a flat rate just for our fountain? Similarly, what you do at home, you can sign up for the flat rate plan year-round and pay the same amount regardless of how much you use. I'm curious if SRP would entertain any idea about that, because that would certainly make it much easier for us to budget and have an idea as to what we're going to be spending year-round. Any questions about that, Mark?
Just for clarification, Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Tate, or Elke, excuse me. If I understand, you're basically saying almost like budget billing, so that the amount that was spent each month would be the same amount, or you're asking to reduce the overall rate?
Well, I suppose both could be discussed. Both could be discussed. I mean, if they wanted to charge us a certain rate for that fountain, I'm not sure, perhaps you can answer this question, is the fountain metered separately?
It is separately metered from anything else other than the park itself. The fountain is not metered separately from other electrical in the park.
I see.
Okay. One other clarification, we did do some checking with SRP, and they took it upon themselves to also analyze what they call our existing rate, which is called an E32. It's a business rate, and it's the cheapest rate you can get. So we are, when they compared it to some other rates, the cost went up substantially. So unless they were to somehow invent a new rate, we are on the cheapest rate they could give us.
Why not, huh?
Yeah.
Why not? Where there's a will, there's a way. We can figure something out. I'm sure SRP would love to be a partner in Fountain Hills and one of the world's largest fountain. If they could somehow help us run it more often, I think it would be a wonderful PR move for them, at least from our standpoint. But to go back to the question that you had mentioned earlier, if it's a flat monthly rate or it's just a flat amount per amount of power that we're using, I think just to have an idea, it'd be easier for us to budget in that sense. Thank you.
Councilman Yates?
Mark, one thing that I was somewhat confused with, and I did have probably a half-hour conversation with Jason, and I think you had the similar conversation. Even if we only run it 5 minutes, they treat it as a prorate, right? Because I know we had discussed this before, that as we know, the full amperage gets drawn out when the thing starting up. But he kept alluding to the fact that whether it's 5 minutes or 55 minutes, they take the hourly rate and divide it by that amount. Did you get that same discussion?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Yates, I did not ask him that specific question. If you remember, the first methodology that the staff had done was based on what we assumed was that during startup, especially on a 15-minute cycle, the startup's going to be fairly expensive. So when we allocated the costs, we based it on 60% startup, and the balance would be those remaining 14 minutes. Okay? When SRP figures the rate, they basically say, you're running it for an hour. So you're going to get this rate spread over an hour. So they figure the rate differently than what we did.
And Mayor, if along those same lines, to Councilman Tate, or Councilman Elke, I apologize. I tried negotiating as well, but I think if we brought an attorney to the table, that might help in our, no, I'm looking at you, brother. But Mark, thank you so much for this, and certainly, obviously, this is important.
Councilwoman Dickey?
Thank you. And as we're going forward, and would it be okay for all of us to sort of let you know, or since Councilman Brown said you'd be working on it and such, to put any questions that we have, like the splash? I was wondering about, do we know for sure if it's only on one pump? Does the wind ever make it go down? And just try to see what would happen as far as it going up and then going down and that kind of thing. So the splash, and then you mentioned the tourism or the Visitors Bureau, and getting a really good feel for how they think this would fold into their ideas and the branding and that kind of stuff, and it even has to do with the median, and see how we can make all of these pieces come together in a way, but have good hard information, including, or not just about the money, but about what the people who live around there feel, what the wind. I'm a little unsure about the wind thing. I would like to know if it would go down even on one pump, that kind of stuff. So if we could just get the real answers on some of that, that'd be great.
Mark, you have some information about that wind gauge, how that works?
Yes, it basically, as I understand it, the ailerometer works so that for 20 seconds before the fountain comes on, and for 20 seconds after the fountain comes on, as it monitors the wind, if it exceeds 9 to 10 miles an hour, in this case, it will not come on, or if it's already on, it will shut itself down.
Okay, thank you.
But that's subject to programming. You can change that.
Yes. Councilwoman Hanson?
Well, it's clear, again, we've got a lot of moving parts going on. And Councilman Brown made a good point about getting public input. And, I mean, we don't have as many people in town right now, so getting into the fall is really a good idea to have some of that discussion. And we see some members of our public that even have had some good suggestions here tonight. And so we don't, we might benefit from that as well. And certainly I agree with Henry in that, we do have this possible IGA coming up. And that's another thing to keep in the mix before we put a lot of effort in this, because I'm sure anything that we come up with, any public comment that we get, would benefit the sanitary district as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Mayor, I just...
Vice Mayor Leger.
A comment, thank you. I don't want to belabor this, but I think it's important to look at the reality of our challenge. What did we spend last year on the fountain?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Leger, I don't recall what the exact figure was. That's why I ended up quoting the budgetary figure. I believe it was in the 130,000 range.
Okay, very good. So we had budgeted 138, and we probably spent, I thought there was no surplus there, so let's say that it was a wash. Did that cost include the extra run times that we need to do to facilitate circulation and...
Yes, it's all inclusive.
Okay, very good. Okay. I was very enthralled with our original discussion, because when that $126,000 number was thrown out, it was like, wow, this is cool. What can we do with this? And I did advocate 3-pump and the wow factor, because I still am one that firmly believes that if you're running it at 1 pump for 12 hours a day, I understand and respect the business input, but I think it becomes more mundane. And from a tourist perspective, it makes it difficult to create a destination unless it's really something spectacular. And it is spectacular at 2 pumps as it is now. And I guess it's going to be interesting, and I look forward to council members working with SRP. But what I find interesting is if you look at $130,000, that's only 15 minutes. So, and you do the math, and it's highly unlikely SRP is going to come up with a special classification for us. I'll be interested in seeing what type of magic they can do to bring this within our budget, and I'm more than happy to look at that. Right now, Mark, the numbers that you've provided us, after talking to SRP and after having them going through their analysis, different times of the day, so forth and so on, it went from 126, which was the original evaluation estimate, up to 208,000. and then to get it to push up to 2 pumps or 3 pumps was an additional $14,000, which brings us up to $222,000. There's cost associated with change, signs, so forth and so on. So at the end of the day, conservatively, we're looking at $230,000. So my point is you guys have your work cut out for you. And I'm more than happy to entertain this as we go forward. But as Councilwoman Hanson said, this may all be academic if, in fact, the sanitary district gets involved in this. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Exactly, and that's what I was trying to explain. Until we have until we get our arms around the price of running the pump, it's all academic. And that's why I'm saying that in the next 30 days, I would like to have enough time and energy put into this to where we can bring back to the table and with a true educated amount, and then we can discuss how we turn the pump on and off at certain wind speeds, and how we manage the rest of the situation. But until we get our arms around the cost, this conversation is conversation only.
Well, I think that the conversation is good only because, according to SRP, there are countless scenarios that you can do with this. Basically, Jason said you could take an Excel sheet and you could just start punching in numbers and all different scenarios. Do you want to just run it on weekends all the time? Do you want to, not do it between the 2 and 7? So, as far as I understand it from SRP, he's giving you all the numbers, and we can punch them in any way we want. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm hearing from the council that we are interested in looking into keeping it into budget and to running the fountain on the 1 pump and then going to the 3 pumps. But we want to look at all the different scenarios that are possible once we put all these numbers like on an Excel sheet.
Sure, Mayor. And
is that what we're all kind of saying now? Councilwoman Dickey?
Thanks, Mayor. Just the other part about the 30 days and that kind of thing is just, I don't know if it has to be so quick, being that it's still summer. I've only gotten 6 emails about this, but so far they've been 5 against and 1 for. So I'd really, I wouldn't mind if we took a little bit longer.
I'm just saying we need to get our arms around the pricing.
Vice Mayor Leger.
And once again, not to belabor this, and I'm certainly on board with looking at this and taking a look at our options. One thing as we look at this, let's just be cautious because we used to have a council person here when we used to have discussion on land and ordinances and cut and fill, and gentlemen used to say, do we adapt the home to the land or the land to the home? And I'm be cautious to adapt the fountain to a number and get less than what we have now, and that's the challenge. And I just put that out because I will be looking very closely at that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mark.
Mayor.
Councilman Yates.
Just one more, just an FYI. The on-peak is the low time during the summer, the 2 to 7 p.m., and that's 3 times the rate. So it basically means we can run it 3 hours in off-peak. Granted, I'm not saying at 3 in the morning, but just to put this in perspective. So, I mean, there's a lot we can do with this, and I'm up to the challenge. But I hear everybody. Thanks.
And Mayor, if I may, I don't know how many of you dance around with SRP with these rates in your own residential home, but if we start dancing around with their rates, then the public's going to be totally confused about when the fountain's operating and how. That's why I'm saying it's going to be very important that we don't adjust simply to the numbers and the scheduling and lose the product we have. And currently, we have a tremendous product. And I would have to concur with what I heard. I have had, it's probably been 1 to 5 from citizens, and I've heard from a lot of citizens like it basically the way it is. And I had an opportunity to look through the most recent client service, customer service survey that was done by our previous town manager. Unfortunately, he didn't get any play time because he was on his way out of town. And I looked through that today, and It was a survey done in-house. It wasn't scientific, but it was certainly some good data in there. There were 4,000 surveys sent out. The response rate was 27%, and of those 1,100 or so folks, in addition to the data, and this is online if anyone wants to look at it, there were 581 additional comments. And in those 581 additional comments from people participating, and these are users of services in the town of the park, the most comments that were in there were about the quality of the water, the quality of the grass, and the need for lights. So when we start talking about needs and we start talking about, globally what citizens are asking for, there was one of 581 comments that stated, hey guys, take advantage of the fountain, run it 12 hours a day, that was there, at 3 pumps and make it spectacular. So I think it's really important, as has been stated here, we need to do some outreach on this, because this survey clearly indicates that this was not top of people's minds. And when you look at the most recent survey on the median, there's zero mention of the need to change the schedule on there. I am very open to looking at options, but there's some tremendous data out there from citizens that basically say, we have other priorities in Fountain Hills, roads, pavement management. And in this particular scenario, we're throwing $88,000 more at the fountain plus other expenses. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hanson?
Yeah, and that's another reason I think it's just a little premature to lock us into anything at this point. I think there's still a lot more of information to be gathered, and going forward with any possible partnerships in the future, there may be some new opportunities to do even more things just because we'll have more resources to share.
Anyone else? Okay, but I'd also like to say that we need to reach out to the business community, since the fountain is an attraction for visitors, and they are the ones who have come to me and said that this fountain running longer is important to their business, and that's why they're asking us to consider it. And I agree that we don't want to spend the extra money. We want to keep it in budget, and I'm glad that Councilman Yates took it upon himself to contact SRP to say, what else can you offer us? So I think we have a lot of possibilities here, and we pretty much know how we all feel about keeping it within budget and just doing something a little bit more impressive with our fountain. And if there's no more council discussion, then I would like to ask for a motion to direct staff.
Did we have a motion? Did we have a motion to table in a second?
They withdrew the motion.
Very good.
So I think we do need something to direct staff in the way we want to go. Will someone like to put that into words, maybe Councilman Brown?
I still feel we should table this without a date.
Second motion.
Okay.
That's the motion.
Second.
And any other discussion on that? No? Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mayor, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, and let's see, now we'll go to number 9, which is a report on recent activities by our town manager, Ken Buchanan. Do you have
Mayor
something?
Kavanaugh, members of the council, only to remind you that next Thursday, 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock, hopefully, try to keep it as timely as we can, a council retreat, talk with staff about some 21 different items we'd like to get a little bit of direction on so we could work a little bit through our business plan operationally. That's all I have, sir.
And the public is invited. Yes, Councilwoman Dickey.
Thank you, Mayor. The speakers, I wanted to just point out that South Tucson, I believe, does intend or has already paid the fee, just to make sure we have that on the record. And I also wanted to ask that there's some follow-up on Mr. Turner's remarks.
Anything further? Then I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.